Max Blumenthal is with us, ladies and gentlemen. He's an award-winning journalist, as well as the editor-in-chief and founder of the independent investigative news website, The Grayzone. He's also a best-selling author of several books, including Goliath, The 51-Day War, and the Management of Savagery. Please welcome to the show, Max Blumenthal. Hi, Max. How are you?
Hey, Jimmy. I'm good.
Good to see you. Now, I don't know if you heard the big news, Max, but I bet you did. The U.S. Disinformation Governance Board, which really was just there to approve disinformation that they said was okay, and this was the head of it, Nina Jankowicz. She's gone, and now she resigned. So that's and they're pausing the Disinformation Governance Board. So that's the lead. I don't want to bury it, but I want to show you how this was reported today. Now, a lot of people were complaining about that. I'm a left of the Democratic Party, way left of the Democratic Party. I was complaining about it. Max Blumenthal's left of the Democratic Party at the Grayzone. They were all complaining about it. There are lots of lefties complaining about it. Glenn Greenwald is a lefty complaining about it. I don't know what he would call himself, Glenn Greenwald. He certainly is a jerk. Matt, I'm sure. I'm just going to guess all the good people were complaining about it. But they want to make it seem like it was just right wingers. And this is Taylor Lorenz. You remember Taylor Lorenz, right? Her job is to pretend that she does journalism. And so what she does is she targets people with no money and power normally and tries to humiliate them. Like she just did with the lady has that account Libs of TikTok. And she doxed her. And so that's who Taylor Lorenz is. We know who Taylor Lorenz is. We've covered her before. So she says, scoop, just 3 weeks after its announcement, the Disinformation Governance Board is being paused. By the way, did you see this? On her Twitter, it says, my personality is better on Instagram. That's because on Instagram, I put on makeup and say bullshit. So here she is. She says they paused it. They paused the Disinformation Governance Board and intra-department DHS working groups focused on disinformation have been suspended. Nina Jankowicz is considering leaving. No, she actually did leave, right? Nina Jankowicz has officially resigned from the Disinformation Governance Board. That sounds like it's a cartoon, right? The Disinformation Governance Board. They did not workshop that name. I'll tell you, they didn't focus group that name. But there it is. The dream is dead. We'll never find another censorship jar who can sing like that. That's all I'm saying. We're never gonna find. We lost Nina. The Taylor Lorenz of clucking hens under 50 years old. We lost Nina.
I think just froze.
Good riddance. It wasn't and then they want to blame it on the far right. And KC10 Driver says, good riddance. It wasn't the far right that stopped this. It was sensible people from all sides who objected to an Orwellian government apparatus. Max, were you surprised that they shut down so quickly? I'm going to get to the article. We're going to get to how crazy this article is because it is insane. This is in the Washington Post. And at no point did they talk about this was a bad idea. At no point did they talk about why this is a bad idea or any concerns about the government overreach and censorship. It was all about the newspaper was defending the government from rando attacks online. I'm not kidding. So, Max, were you surprised that they got rid of this so quickly, this Disinformation Governance Board?
I somewhat wasn't surprised because my thinking was actually under Trump, there was a version of a Disinformation Governance Board under this character, Christopher Krebs. And he was the kind of person you would expect to lead this. He wore a suit or khakis, was national security bureaucrat. And then you bring in weird Nina Jankowicz. No offense to Weird Al. just a complete freak of just an absolute freak and a flamboyant wannabe Broadway singer who does, child like nursery rhymes on methamphetamines about disinformation and Russian propaganda. You bring her in there and she just becomes the perfect target. And obviously there was pressure on the Biden administration from the camp that she represents within the Democratic Party's infrastructure to create this kind of office for her. And there were, I'm sure, think tanks behind it, the kind of think tanks we associate with censorship on social media, like the Atlantic Council. And people like Taylor Lorenz seem to have been involved in this network, which is why she's griping about the end of this board. But what I think happened was Alexander Mayorkas, the DHS secretary, was grilled by Rand Paul and other senators and admitted that he didn't know what a complete nut job Nina Jankowicz was, or how embarrassing and this fiasco had become ahead of the midterms. And what I think they're going to do is do something more sub rosa, below the radar, with another character like Christopher Krebs, who's just a grim bureaucratic figure who exists behind the curtain instead of a flamboyant wannabe Broadway singer. So I'm not actually surprised. What I would say, though, is I'm very pleased because contrary to, and we'll talk about Taylor Lorenz's article, but contrary to her framing of this being a right-wing campaign, this was actually a right-left campaign.
Yes.
That involved, including civil libertarians as well. I mean, the ACLU, which has been terrible over the past few years, actually condemned this board as an attack on civil liberties. And so this is what we need, is we need a cross-partisan or non-partisan alliance against online censorship by people who seek to control reality and shield out any information or facts or journalism that contravenes the objectives of a discredited establishment. And that's what happened here. So everybody who had participated in this campaign should give themselves a hand, left and right.
We did it. So here's this crazy article. I can't honest. There are a few articles that, it's hard to shock me anymore, but it happened. This article is the most unbelievable defense of the powerful that I've ever seen in my life. And they're doing it like they're protecting a rape victim, instead of what they're doing is, instead of who they are protecting, is a very, very powerful person who wanted to censor people, and it's a history of pushing misinformation. There it is, how the Biden administration let right-wing attacks derail its disinformation efforts. And I just want to go back. Good, it wasn't the far right that stopped this. It was sensible people from all sides who objected to an Orwellian government apparatus. Now, I just want to say, this is disinformation. The irony here is that this should be labeled misinformation if you're going to do that sort of thing. I don't want to. So I'm against that. But if you're going to be consistent, this is exactly why you can't have a disinformation governance board, because they're always lying. And no one will ever agree on what is real or true or disinformation or not. Because this is disinformation. It wasn't right-wingers. It was everybody. Left, center, libertarian, far right, far left. Everybody was against this. Here's Vince Cogliani says, this entire piece, meaning this article, is a slobbering defense of power. And by the way, that was my name for my punk band in high school, Slobbering Defense of Power. Not a moment of concern about the way government bodies are used as a predicate for censorship. Well said. I don't write that well. Not a single mention of Jankowicz's long record of credulously pushing blue anon conspiracy theories. None of that. That's correct. None of that was in this article. None of that.
Well, didn't she write?
Go ahead.
She wrote a book called "How to Win the Information War," and that's like step one, not mention.
Yeah,
not bring up that part.
Don't bring it up.
I think it was actually I called "How to Lose the Information War."
Oh, that's right. Yes,
she was going to come in and tell people how to win, and now she lost.
So this is from the article from the Washington Post. Taylor Lorenz, maniac, professional victim, gaslighter, and two of the oligarchs, Taylor Lorenz, wrote this. Just 3 weeks after its announcement, the Disinformation Governance Board is being paused, according to multiple employees, blah, blah. On Monday, DHS decided to shut down the board, according to multiple people. By Tuesday morning, Jankowicz had drafted a resignation letter in response to the board's dissolution. I like how they say paused. They paused it, right? Just to leave just to leave some hope for the world's biggest pieces of shit out there. That's what that is. Okay.
You might still have censorship, right? Eventually
we might still have it. We're just pausing it now. So don't get too But Tuesday night, Jankowicz was pulled into an urgent call with DHS officials who gave her the choice to stay on, even as the department work is put on hold because of a backlash that it faced, according to multiple people with knowledge of it. Wow. The one weapon they couldn't defend against, a backlash. Working groups within the DHS focused on dis, and malinformation have been suspended.
I've never heard that one before.
I did. Do you get the feeling that the book 1984 is Taylor Lorenz's Star Trek? Do you get that feeling? It's an optimistic view of a future utopia, right? Can you imagine if Big Brother let a little backlash stop him from creating the Ministry of Truth? He'd lose his iron grip on Oceania.
No, Big Brother was too effective, and he didn't cry when he accidentally succeeded.
Patriarchy.
On Wednesday morning, Jankowicz officially resigned from her role within the department. Nina Jankowicz has been subjected to unjustified and vile personal attacks and physical threats, a DHS spokesperson told the Post in a statement in between putting kids in cages. Right.
Wow. This is like what Coolio did to Weird Al when he made Amish Paradise.
Jankowicz's experience is a prime example. This is real. This is real. Jankowicz's experience is a prime example of how the right-wing internet apparatus operates, where far-right influencers attempt to identify a target, present a narrative, and then repeat mischaracterizations across social media and websites with the aim of discrediting and attacking anyone who seeks to challenge them. Oh my God. It sounds like the playbook from the establishment media. Right, Max?
Sounds like projection to me.
That's exactly what they do. And you know how I know that's what they do? Because they did that to me when I was doing Force the Vote. I challenged them, and so they had to discredit me. They wrote column, article after article. Jimmy Dore's the head of the dirtbag left. Jimmy Dore's alt-right. Jimmy Dore's this. Jimmy Dore's that. That's what they do. That's what they do. The Washington Post themselves smeared me. That's what they had to discredit me because I was challenging the Democratic Party. And so they did this to me. That's not what some fucking nefarious far-right group that she can't identify does. That's what the Washington Post does. That's what Taylor Lorenz does. This is called projection. And this is why I study Carl Jung, because he invented that idea of you project your worst attributes of yourself onto other people. That's what this is. And then she's writing this. She says it also shows what happens when by the way, what she's really pissed off is she's pissed off that the right wingers are doing this when it's really her job. That's her job. That's what she does. And what do you think she says it also shows what happens when institutions, when confronted with these attacks, don't respond effectively. What does that mean? You think
Lock them up.
She means they don't respond effectively by censoring enough? Is that what that means? I don't know what that means exactly.
Look how it says mischaracterizations. The actual group, they didn't characterize themselves. Like, they asked them directly what exactly you're going to be doing, and they never gave a straight answer. Like, you could have cleared all that up if it was mischaracterization real easily. Oh, so what? Yeah.
So she's saying that they're mischaracterizing And what Kurt's saying is, why didn't the DHS just say what they were doing? They could never give a straight answer to what the hell their job was. So if you're going to say other people are mischaracterizing them across, so that's not it was their own fault.
It wasn't characterized in the first place.
That's right. That you have to first characterize something for it to be mischaracterized. Okay. Just hours after Jankowicz tweeted about her new job, this is a real story in a real newspaper. So this person, a powerful person inside government wanting to censor you at the Department of Homeland Security, which puts kids in cages. There, just after that person at that institution inside government tweeted about her new job, far-right influencer Jack Posobiec posted tweets accusing the Biden administration of creating a ministry of truth. Posobiec's 1.7 million followers, they quickly sprung into action.
They tweeted?
Because this guy tweeted something. By the way, how many millions of followers does the Washington Post have? Right? How many? Because they fucking smeared me in an article. How many millions of people subscribe to the Washington Post? Why are you guys pretending like this isn't what you do for a living? And it is true that me and everyone I know, we were absolutely fine with Nina Jankowicz, that demented theater kid with a history of spreading disinformation. We were all okay with her being in charge of policing disinformation. That wasn't until this asshole Posobiec tweeted something about it, and that woke us all up. By the end of the day, there were at least 53,000 posts on Twitter mentioning Disinformation Governance Board. Yet that's how Twitter works. There's billions of people on it. This happens every day. That's called a trending topic. And something inside the government trending is a good idea. That's a good thing that people are aware of what's happening in the government. But to Taylor Lorenz, this is evidence of a nefarious right-wing conspiracy that people are talking about a new government body inside our government. That's bad. People are talking about the Disinformation Governance Board on Twitter, and that's harassment. That's literal violence. In the days following, that number skyrocketed.
So word got out.
Word got out. Posobiec's early tweets shaped the narrative, and Jankowicz was positioned as the primary target. Republican lawmakers echoed Posobiec's framing and amplified it to their audiences.
Why are you representatives speaking?
They're talking about a thing happening in the government to people online. U.S. Senate hopeful and Missouri Attorney General Eric Schmidt and Representative Andrew S. Clyde of Georgia both posted similar tweets to Posobiec's. Former Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard also posted a video repeating Posobiec's statements. Is that how you say his name? If I have to say it a million times, I'd like to get it right once.
I think so.
Oh, okay. Oh, my God. It sounds like basically Taylor Lorenz and the Washington Post are upset that democracy worked. Because that sounds like democracy. People speaking and their representatives speaking to them, and we're all conversing and coming to an understanding about something. The week following the announcement, approximately 70% of Fox News' 1 hour segments, can you show the week following the announcement, approximately 70% of Fox News' 1 hour segments mentioned either Jankowicz or the board. Mentioned. You mean a news show is going to mention this unbelievable Orwellian frickin' ministry of truth that just got laid on us with no explanation of what they're really going to be doing? And they're talking about it on a news show? They're mentioning it. That's supposed to be bad.
She's making it seem like they spent 70% of their time talking about it.
Right, that's not what happened.
When nearly 70% of their 1 hour segments maybe mentioned it once.
That's right.
Because it was a running story, which would be a whole lot less than Chris Christie and Bridgegate on MSNBC. Remember
right?
that?
Yes, I remember that. That was constant. That was 99%. I was glued to that coverage, I'll be honest.
So he shut down the bridge for an hour. And
But listen to this. This is also in the Washington Post. The Fox News coverage was referenced in some of the most popular posts on Facebook and Twitter criticizing Jankowicz. Oh, my God. People are talking about a thing. That's all this is. People are talking about a thing that the government's doing. And Fox News is talking about it. And then when people talk about it, they reference Fox News talking about it. How do we stop people talking about a thing? This is amazing. This is in the Washington Post. Dozens of websites, including Breitbart, the Post Millennial, the Daily Caller, and the New York Post, began mining Jankowicz's past social media posts and publishing articles to generate controversy. You mean they started doing reporting? You mean they started looking into the person who was the head of this new agency inside the government instead of being derelict in their duty and going and looking at TikTok videos? You mean they were actually doing fucking journalism? And that upsets Taylor Lorenz and the Washington Post, owned by Jeff Bezos, in bed with the CIA.
They did it to generate controversy, Jimmy.
They did it just to generate.
These bastards are just out there generating. Everything would be fine. People would be happy with it.
She sounds like Spiro Agnew. I don't know that. You guys might be too young for that reference, but
the nattering nabobs of negativism, right?
That's right. That's what he said. What the news was, and now she's saying,
"She's Dr. Smith from Lost in Space." You nattering nabobs.
So they, some of the people were simply mocking. Making fun of her for parroting a song from Mary Poppins to talk about misinformation. So they were mining her past. My God, people do that. So you're saying
didn't Taylor Lorenz mine someone's like personal information and reveal their name recently?
Yes, that's exactly what Taylor Lorenz doxed somebody. Went to their relatives' homes to try to get him to say things about her. She was harassing everybody to do with somebody who had a TikTok account. So what Taylor Lorenz is saying is that they gave Nina Jankowicz the old Taylor Lorenz treatment. Right? Oh, wait, they didn't try to destroy her children's lives, so I guess it's not the full Taylor Lorenz treatment, because that's what Taylor Lorenz does. Here's more of this. This is amazing. In another instance, a performer where Jankowicz sings a performance where Jankowicz sings a popular musical theater song like a fucking maniac about a person's desire to become rich and powerful. No, the song I saw was her singing a song about wanting to censor people for disinformation to the tune of supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. I didn't see the other one.
Yeah, it looked like some karaoke thing.
Okay.
Why would you pick that song?
They said it was misrepresented, Kurt, that when her desire to make that song, that was misrepresented to imply that Jankowicz herself was after money and power and would sleep with men to get it. I mean, that doesn't misrepresent her as much as her singing that song did. How about that? All right. Go ahead.
Whose criticism was that? Like, I heard she sleeps with men for money and power. No one gave a shit.
They're just making that. They just pick up randos, right? So one person with no followers on Twitter says something, they pretend like someone said that, and it's important to pay attention to. That's what Taylor Lorenz is doing right here. So here's more.
It was just a crazy video. I don't know if you've seen it.
No, I didn't.
I saw that.
It just underlines the correct portrayal of her as kind of an unhinged whack job. I wasn't really paying much attention to the content of it.
Well, did you say, I'm sorry, before that the job maybe was kind of built around Nina Jankowicz? Like they were like, we need to make this new thing and put this Nina like, did you say that anyway, or did I misunderstand?
You're asking Max that, right?
Well, Nina Jankowicz, when she announced her position, she stated pretty clearly, if I remember right on Twitter, that she had been working with the DHS to design this position in this board. Oh,
right.
Okay, there you go.
So this board is Nina.
Right? Yeah. Here's the next paragraph I want to share with you. It says, experts in disinformation. What kind of experts say that right-wing disinformation? They just say experts. They don't tell you who these just experts. Experts in disinformation. You know who those people are? They're people like Taylor Lorenz. They're people like Bellingcat. People who just give themselves a fucking title. I'm an expert in disinformation.
Yeah, it doesn't even link to anybody there.
No, doesn't. Experts say that right-wing disinformation and smear campaigns regularly follow the same playbook. Like the one that Taylor Lorenz and the Washington Post use on a regular basis. That's the
There's one playbook for it.
Here comes the playbook. The playbook is, and that it's crucial. This is what she's writing. She says it is crucial that public and leaders of institutions, especially in the government, the media, and educational bodies, understand more fully how these cycles operate. It's crucial that people understand how these Twitter things work because I'm getting my feelings hurt on Twitter. This is real. I got some good news, Taylor. The government definitely knows how the cycle of misinformation works. You fucking genius. Go ahead, Max.
If you go down a few paragraphs from the mention of experts, I think you can find the expert that she's referring to, and it's Emerson T. Brooking, a resident senior fellow at the Atlantic Council's Digital Forensic Research Lab. So we all know what the Atlantic Council is. It is NATO's unofficial think tank in Washington, or official, semi-official think tank in Washington, funded by everyone from NATO to the U.S. State Department, to Raytheon, to the Turkish and Saudi governments, Saudi Aramco, Burisma, which gave Joe Biden's son a lucrative contract, was also a major donor to the Atlantic Council, buying influence in Washington. And this is the expert. So it is essentially a cutout of the government and the intelligence services and all of these U.S. vassal states. It is the government. And Nina Jankowicz has been involved in several U.S. intelligence cutouts that push regime change and anti-democratic campaigns. I can talk about it in a minute, around the world within Western supposed democracies.
Well, let's get to more of this article because it's crazy. Honest, this is the most insane article I've ever seen. She's writing in defense of the Department of Homeland Security head of censorship. By discrediting those made to represent institutions they seek to bring down, they discredit the institution itself. Harassment and reputational harm is core to the attack strategy. That's exactly what the media does to people like me. That's what she does to people like me. Institutions often treat reputational harm and online attacks as a personal matter, one that unlucky employees should simply endure quietly. He said he was frustrated by. So then they start to quote some guy who's supposed to be a disinformation guy from a university, but he's just an idiot. He said that he was frustrated by the Biden administration's lack of a loud and vocal response to what Jankowicz was going through. What in the fuck? Are we going to have drum circles? And saying it's amateur hour is cliche, but it's amateur hour, he said, of the administration's inaction. Now, isn't this Taylor Lorenz and the Washington Post now harassing and trying to discredit the Biden administration's right? How many followers does the Washington Post have? And you're just going to insult and harass these people like this in your newspaper? That's what you're harassing the people. You're saying they're amateur hour over at the Biden administration. Now everybody's going to hate them. That's not okay, according to Taylor Lorenz on the Washington Post. Isn't she doing the exact thing? Of course they are.
Wouldn't they maybe just think she's going through the thing that they all have to go through to be in
public life?
She's not, she go through a tenth of anything Biden went through, deserved or not. like why would he even register?
All I tried to do was get Congress people to take a vote on Medicare for all in the middle of a pandemic, and people doxed my house. That's what I was trying to do. This woman in the government is trying to censor people, and she's got power. I had no power. I have no power.
Why is it amateur hour? It's I mean, I mean, she's an expert on amateur hour. This is like amateur hour Broadway, amateur hour disinformation.
Yes.
And
why are they? Isn't hiring Nina Jankowicz amateur hour?
Exactly.
That's the amateur hour.
Yes,
exactly.
And so now here's what Taylor Lorenz and a lot of maniacs who are sympathetic to people like Taylor Lorenz, what they do. They pretend like random comments on social media amount to something. They don't. They're just random comments on Twitter or wherever. And watch, this is how they do it. In response to one post on Gab featuring a video of Tucker Carlson discussing Jankowicz, users commented, "Time to kill them all." Users! Who? We don't know. It could have been Taylor Lorenz under a fake name. We don't know who did this. Just users. So a rando on Gab said something crazy, and that makes the Washington Post. Here's another one. Another post featuring Carlson's coverage of Jankowicz was shared to a right-wing forum with the caption, "This is the point where we have to draw the line." That sounds reasonable to me, by the way.
That's even worse than killing, drawing.
You're going to draw a line? No line drawing. That is violence. And here, by the way, Jameel Jaffer tweeted out, "The Washington Post piece should have acknowledged somewhere, perhaps even at the top, that some of the criticism of the Biden administration's Disinformation Governance Board came from civil liberties and human rights group." Yeah, maybe at the top.
You said the far right. That.
And here's what and then he links to this. He goes, "Here's the letter that the Protect Democracy at EFF and Night Columbia sent earlier this month," and there it is. So those are far left. That's far left. Or left.
It's actually, I would say, mainstream. These are very pedigreed institutions.
Okay, there you go. Corrected. I stand corrected. So these aren't
just
fringe.
Harassed you.
So the point is, these aren't. What's that?
I just bullied you.
I said you harassed Jimmy. He harassed you.
Yeah, I mean, and this show has to have a response to when Max does that. I mean,
this is amateur hour, Jimmy.
But then this guy, what is this? Who's this guy? Oh, and then anyway. So this guy says, "There were plenty of good reasons to criticize the DHS initiative, but I think the Biden administration just ignored those thoughtful criticisms. It seems the bad faith conservative campaign against the Disinfo board is the story because that's what actually mattered." What?
One, who cares? Two,
first of all,
how is it bad faith? Is he implying
I guess
censorship czar to be?
So apparently the ignored thoughtful criticisms. So if they came from the left, they're thoughtful criticisms, but if they came from the right, they're bad faith. Even though they both were saying the same thing, that this is a bad idea. But it's bad faith when someone I don't like says it. Isn't that mental?
Well, I think what the right was saying, which the thoughtful critics that this guy is pointing out, what the right was saying, which was actually more valuable and more salient in my view, was that Nina Jankowicz is a prolific disseminator of disinformation.
Yes.
She has lied about major political events again and again, and we can't make this point enough. And that was really at the heart of the critique I saw on both the right and the left. It wasn't within the critique of these civil liberties groups, which were just concerned about what it means for a national security or law enforcement organization to police speech, which is also valid.
Again, I'll just requote the guy earlier in this segment. This is the most slobbering defense of power. That is just disgusting. That if you could read that article and not have your stomach churn or your hair stand on fire or something, that is in the Washington Post. I mean, it's just shocking. That's something that shouldn't be in Glamour magazine. That fucking article defending.
Well, it's obvious that she has some relationship with her, like that they're friends or associates or something. It feels that way, like she's just speaking on her behalf.
Well, Nina wrote How to Be a Woman Online, which I'm sure went big in circles of people who are obnoxious online, such as your Taylor Lorenz's. I'm sure that's like a, Oprah book club thing for them.
Yes. And she said that these I don't have this slide in there from the article, but she said in the article that they often pick most often pick a woman or a person of color to go after, right? These conspiracies online. Do you know over half the population is women? What the fuck? So just like most of the time or half the time? Yeah, half the population is women. You're a woman, you're in power, you're writing. She's a woman, she's in power. Who do you want to... Hey, where are the guys over at DHS? It's just, anyway, I can't get over it.
Part of the reason they pick a woman is because they're like, now you can't say anything about it because a woman, like...
Well, that's what they do. That is exactly what they're doing. All right, so let's move on. For anything you want to say before we wrap this up, Max?
Yeah, well, she's gone after us at the Grayzone. And so the article by Taylor Lorenz starts off by saying, now Jankowicz finds herself the target of the very people she has spent her career taking down. And it's like, yeah,
the irony.
You fucking lying ass charlatan. You accused us of being a Russian disinformation operation in public with no evidence at all. How dare you? Like, of course we're going to go after you and challenge you. When you are given police powers to censor us, we are going to be very upset. You called us destructive disinformation, which is kind of a compliment because I'm happy to be destructive to your authoritarian censorship agenda. But she openly stated that she wished to censor us. So, of course, we're going to be upset. And why does she want to censor us? Because, as I mentioned before, she is involved with regime change, U.S. government cutouts in Eastern Europe that have tried to topple any government that the U.S. doesn't want in power. She doesn't believe in democracy. So, of course, we're going to be upset. And I wasn't doing this because I wasn't criticizing her because she's a woman. I never said anything about her until she started smearing us, libeling us, and spreading disinformation about the site that I founded and that I run.
Oh, but if a man did it, you'd like it.
I would have felt much more like, liberated to go after them, I guess.
Yeah. Well, that's who these people are. This is the world we're living in, and they want everybody to think that people in the Democratic administration are good people and everybody in any other political party are bad people. That's what this is.
Can I just take a second to say thank you for your service to Nina Jankowicz?
Hey, I'm on tour. Come see me in Irvine, California, Las Vegas, Indianapolis, Salt Lake City, Washington. Washington? You mean Washington State?
Yes.
Yes. Go to jimmydorecomedy.com for a link for all those tickets.